Well, almost as if looking into the future, a Kassadin ban, who would have thought that would happen? And there is the Gragas ban this time around from Alliance. On the other side, Karthus taken away from Froggen. We've seen how strong his Karthus is. In fact, the one game that he's been let through, he played to absolute success against Fnatic, where he finished 7-5-12. And there is also a Lucian ban against Mr. RalleZ. We already pointed him out as one of the key players in the Supa Hot Crew team.
And he definitely is. You know, Mr. RalleZ and Migxa are, in my mind, the most aggressive duo lane. They pick fights often. The game they lost last week against SK was arguably because Mr. RalleZ and Migxa weren't on the same page. They went aggressive at different times, and they weren't always engaging and disengaging when they needed to. The next day, they pulled it together, and they made it work. The Draven has not been banned out, it's been allowed through. If Supa Hot Crew see an opportunity to run it, it is a definite consideration for them.
Oh, we'll have to see. I mean, on the other side of things, Sivir has been the choice for Tabzz lately. In fact, the last 4 games, he's in fact played that Sivir in the bot lane. So we'll see about that one and how that all works out. But it looks like they're going to concentrate on the top lane for that man on your screen, Mimer, picking up Renekton first.
Now, every time I think of Mimer on Renekton, the game that comes to mind is when Supa Hot Crew dismantled and destroyed Gambit. It was running Renekton plus Vi in the jungle. They had so many good invades, and the trio of Mimer, Impaler, and Moopz really synergized and worked together. They counter-jungled effectively. They were always responding at the right time, and I think that is a very, very good pickup for them. Mimer is a strong player, and he's not afraid to jump into team fights at any stage of the game.
So that leaves Thresh here, actually, for Alliance. Funnily enough, they've played a decent amount of Thresh so far this season. Probably less than a lot of the other supports, but the key fact is that they've not won a single game where Nyph has had his hands on Thresh. That's definitely locked in. Caitlyn, another champion which Tabzz has really liked in the past. If we even look back to his last split, playing in there with the Lemon Dogs, he loved that Caitlyn. And Caitlyn Thresh as a pair is very strong.
Yeah, as a duo lane, it's very difficult to find fault. They outrange many champions, they outpoke many champions, there is kill potential. It also makes life quite difficult for Supa Hot Crew if they want to run somebody like a Draven. He's going to take a lot of poke from Caitlyn early on, and it just forces their hand to maybe think about some alternatives. You touched on the fact that Tabzz has played a lot of Sivir recently, and that is in conjunction with the rest of the Alliance teams when they've had, you know, very movement-based compositions with Irelia up in that top lane, Karthus in the middle. They want to run around a lot. It's not going to work out this time. I do expect Shook to most likely trend towards that Wukong. It's been his most successful jungle champion.
So they've left Pantheon open here, and that's been played so far in 5 games for the Supa Hot Crew, of which they've won 4 of them. Their only loss, funnily enough, against the bottom place team Millennium with that Pantheon. So Impaler going to be happy on that front of things. Then they take the support in for this one. So we will see Migxa playing the Leona.
This is a very aggressive combo from Supa Hot Crew. They've already got very strong initiation. Something that I always harp on about every time I'm at the desk is, how does a team start a fight? How does a team get in and engage? And with a Pantheon and a Leona, it is very, very clear. Knowing that Thresh has been taken off the table or has been locked in, you're not afraid to go with that because there's no Morgana. There is no Black Shield that can come down from Alliance. So I think that's quite smart. Supa Hot Crew leaving the potential of Draven for their AD carry, as we talked about, and we'll see what they're going to run in that mid lane. Ziggs is a possibility.
Well, they also were hovering just a second ago over Zac, which is very interesting, considering it's been played once so far here for the Supa Hot Crew. That was against SK Gaming, and Mimer didn't have a great time with that one. They've already got Renekton in there, so I don't know really why I'm harping too much on about that Zac. But Ziggs, same letter at the start, is definitely a more likely choice for Moopz. We talked about Gragas, and Ziggs is that fallback champion in that front.
Yeah, it really is. It fits Moopz' playstyle. He likes to farm up. He likes to have lots of long-range poke. There is a concern that if Moopz gets caught up by Froggen early on, or Froggen gets a little bit ahead on LeBlanc, he can pop Ziggs down. We need to be, Moopz needs to be very careful with his satchel charges. There is the outplay potential of jumping away from a LeBlanc, but he really has to be on point. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Impaler maybe giving some early attention to that lane just to try help stem the flow, help work in favor of Moopz' Ziggs.
So final pick in there was Jinx. Funnily enough, last time that these two teams played, Mr. RalleZ did have Jinx, and he finished 7-0-10. Massive game that was for Mr. RalleZ. We'll see if he can reproduce that one here today. Over for Alliance, looking for a top laner, and Wickid's going to lock in that Trundle. He's been playing a bit of Irelia recently, but Trundle a bit more back to, I don't know if you can really say to his roots, because that in itself is Irelia, but somewhere where he's been a little bit stronger this season in terms of Trundle.
Yeah, and it's a really good pick. It's going to scale incredibly well into the late game, will eventually beat Mimer's Renekton. He's going to have a little bit of a difficult time in that lane against Mimer's Renekton. What we do see from Alliance is their team composition is a little bit more about picking somebody off. Caitlyn's single target right-click damage. LeBlanc wants to insta-gib somebody. Lee Sin wants to kick one person back. If Alliance do not find that pick, if they do not find Moopz or Mr. RalleZ in a team fight, the CC that can come down from a lot of the Supa Hot Crew's members is going to make their team fights quite difficult. So we'll see how this sort of team fight AoE composition from Supa Hot Crew does against the single target pick composition of Alliance.
Interesting game coming up here. I mean, Supa Hot Crew definitely got the more solid form, although they lost to Gambit and SK. Out of their last 5 games, only 2 of them were losses, and that includes beating Alliance, beating Fnatic, and taking down Roccat last week as well. So really interested to see how this one goes. Well, with the 2 teams locked and loading, let's check out your votes on LOLesports.com. And as you can see, it's a close one. 51% to 49% in favor of the Supa Hot Crew. Real close.
It is an incredibly close vote. I would probably have tipped it further in Supa Hot Crew's favor. I think they've been performing on a higher level, and they've been slightly more consistent over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll see if they can keep it up right now.
Well, remember, you guys can keep voting throughout this Super Week, and we'd also like to remind you that you can get seats here in Cologne and join us in the live audience to watch these matches. Just click on the tickets link at the top of LOLesports.com for all the details. But for now, we're going to jump into game. It's the Supa Hot Crew taking on Alliance, and hopefully we're in for a real treat in this one. We've got a lot of games still to get through, and if the start of today is anything to go by, we're in for an absolute mega weekend. It's
going to be an interesting laning phase here for the Supa Hot Crew. I think Mimer is going to have an advantage against Wickd. The mid lane of Moopz and Froggen is going to be very dependent on who can get the early poke down, and I would actually give it to Moopz and Ziggs at the very early level. At 6, that all changes. And in the duo lane, Migxa is going to struggle against Nyph on that Thresh. If he takes too much poke too early, it's not going to make that all-in power at level 6 as strong or effective as they're looking for.
So will we see anything at level 1? Last game was a bit of a treat for us at level 1 with the hook on towards Enrater that got things started off for Millennium. At the moment, though, we have that very standard 2014 season line defense at level 1 where they wait for the trinkets to come into play, get a few wards down and head off to lane.
Yeah, you were mentioning if there's anything going to happen. There was about 1,000 caution pings there coming out from the side of Alliance. There's a few more. I'm not expecting anybody to go for any sorts of invades. We see both of these teams lining up to have the traditional laning phase, and I think the difficult one for the Supa Hot Crew here is going to be Mr. RalleZ and Migxa. They really need to ensure they don't take too much harass, too much poke from Tabzz and Nyph, so they can get themselves to that level 6 point where their all-in power becomes much more effective.
I think they're just pinging for the fun of it by now, I have to be honest. There's a lot of question marks on that top side of the map. A couple of wards down from the blue side, which were spotted there from Alliance going down. So Alliance know exactly where those wards are coming in, and we'll see what they do about that one. As in the starts, we see that both junglers going back to their top side of the jungle camps. Impaler starting off by the blue. We see Shook starting off on the red buff, and they go off to lane straight away after that.
Now we'll see how Shook does on this Lee Sin. It's a champion we haven't seen it on for a number of weeks. He did play it very early on in the split, if memory serves correctly, and it's something that has great ability to outplay. We've seen Amazing do phenomenal on Lee Sin, but if I'm going to be very honest, Shook has not played at an exceptional level on champions like Elise, on champions like Lee Sin. He was struggling early on, so there's going to be a lot of pressure on him this game.
Yeah, you were totally right with that one. It was actually against the Supa Hot Crew last time we saw Lee Sin for them. That was paired with the Trundle on Wickd in the top lane as well, and in that one they just didn't really get rolling into things. Interesting to see how this bottom lane goes, though. We know how aggressive Migxa and Mr. RalleZ can be, but Alliance have hit level 2 first.
Now, we talked about Mr. RalleZ going into this matchup. He has not died against Alliance. 17 kills and 17 assists over their 2 previous games, and he's on a champion that he has already used to great success against Alliance. There's no escape on this Jinx. If Supa Hot Crew fall a little bit behind, and Froggen, Shook, and Wickd are able to dive onto Mr. RalleZ, they've got 3 champions that can stick to him fairly effectively and chase him down. So there's very little room for error once we do start getting to the phases where those champions can get involved and start picking fights.
To play devil's advocate though, when you're as aggressive as Ziggs, so you don't need an escape where you're going forward, that's for sure. We may just see that happening. In fact, no, we won't, because Impaler, as he did his golems there down on the bottom side of the jungle, decided to back off and go back up towards the top side of his jungle to do himself the Wraith Camp. Of course, he has those double buffs on. We'll see if he makes an appearance towards mid, where Froggen is already level 3, which makes you think that he's almost certainly got points in his escape right now.
Yeah, so taking a look at Moopz and Froggen, they're even on CS. Froggen is trying to position himself in front of that CS line to zone Moopz away from XP, and also to try and get some additional poke down. In terms of the lane setup, it seems very even right now. Impaler has come in behind both Nyph and Tabzz. The question is, can they catch Tabzz out? Impaler, they don't know he's there. Impaler snuck himself in here. Nyph and Tabzz have no idea. They're going to look for Zen's place. It doesn't connect.
Zenith misses, and actually Impaler's going to come out anyway. They might as well try and get some damage down here and force Alliance to back off. But the hook actually lands on towards Impaler. Don't think they've got the damage to really make this one count, but Alliance, as soon as that Zenith Blade misses, you have to feel that it was almost called off for the Supa Hot Crew, and any damage that Impaler did was a bonus.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Tabzz is going to be able to sustain fairly well because he can play it safe, stand back, use his Dorans as well as his runes and masteries. Now they've jumped on Moopz. And
there is Froggen going in. Half of Moopz's health being evaporated there with that little combo. And actually Shook playing this one quite aggressive right now. He's over in the Supa Hot Crew jungle, just going to be taking away that big wolf, knowing that Impaler nowhere near that one after his little visit down towards bottom.
That's very smart play from Shook, realizing that Impaler was far away. He was not going to be able to really challenge for, those jungle camps, and he makes it work for himself, getting a small lead. We'll see how we can continue to grow the CS advantage. It's approaching 10 right now, and if Shook can make his presence known in lane and actually get a gank going as well, that is a big advantage for him on this champion that really needs to get going in the early game, because once the game scales into 25, 30, 35 minutes, Lee Sin falls off in terms of damage and becomes a lot more utility-based.
We can look there, we were just for a slight moment on that top lane, which we're not expecting any early kills to come down by, but we can see that Wickd actually picking up that double Doran's Blade along with the Doran Shield in there that he started off with. Is slightly behind in CS, but he'll catch that up now. Actually, that Mimer has gone back home. He's going to be coming back into lane with a Giant Bell.
So that's a very interesting pickup here on Wickd. The only thing I can go with is that he wants to try and mitigate the early game weakness that Trundle has against Renekton. By getting those Doran stats at a fairly cheap price, you're going to be able to challenge and fight Renekton in probably the level 6 to 11, where generally Trundle still loses. Now Moopz has no mana. He does still have enough for a satchel charge, luckily, but he needs to be on point. One more bouncing bomb may actually push him low. We'll see if Shook can get in here. Froggen's going to be able to jump in him, and he's got 6.
And he needs to hit the Q here, and actually they both miss, so that's pretty much game over on that gank right there. Moopz not going to chance anything further though. He hits the recall button, we'll go back home, fill up his mana bar, and we'll be coming back into lane in just a while. And of course, he just decides to stop that as I decide to talk about it. Good stuff from that. This top lane again, Mimer, Wickd, exchange of damage from both sides.
Wickd is running teleport. We need to keep that in mind. Trundle with Flash TP is not really going to be looking to get kills in a one-on-one scenario, but he's obviously going to become a split-pushing monster, and if we can see Wickd using his teleport effectively, it can play out. I think if you look over the course of the split, though, Wicked's teleports have not been necessarily the greatest until the late game, like super late game. We haven't seen Wickd teleporting to a bottom lane to help secure kills for his duo, for example. Now, Mimer playing that aggression, he's actually gone very deep and is going to be fighting Wickd.
Yeah, Wickd actually going to do a good chunk of damage onto him here. We can see that the pillar goes down. Lee Sin wasn't really in a position to get involved on that top lane. He's just waiting for his red buff to spawn for the second time in this game, but Impaler's coming.
So Impaler is right around the corner, throws the ward down. Shook will have seen that being cast. Froggen's nowhere near. He does manage to grab it with the smite. The fight in the top lane is quite interesting. Mimer opted not to use his ultimate, not to use his ignite, and he knows subjugates down. It's a fairly short cooldown, but there is that window of opportunity. Impaler's about to get his Grand Skyfall, and we'll see if Mimer and Impaler can make something happen.
Yeah, Impaler here at level 5.5, let's call it, as he donates that blue buff over towards his mid laner Moopz. It's going to make him feel a little bit more comfortable. Does have that Chalice and an Amp Tome, so building his way nicely up towards that Athene's Unholy Grail. A nice item for him to have to keep up the harassment and also protect him a little bit from Froggen.
So one thing I want to talk about in terms of this game so far, 8 minutes in, we've seen very little action. Mr. RalleZ and Migxa have done very well in this bottom lane. They're about to hit level 6. They're even on CS with Tabzz and Nyph, who outrange them at this level of the game. Tabzz and Nyph have been pushing Mr. RalleZ and Migxa so incredibly intensely, but they haven't been poking them. They haven't been landing auto attacks under the turret, thanks to the game from Impaler. Impaler came in very early on. Yes, he didn't get a kill, but the psychological fear was then placed. The worry that he could be there meant that Tabzz and Nyph has played aggressive, but without trying to really stomp on Mr. RalleZ and Migxa. So you have to give them props, doing so well against Caitlyn Thresh, which is very difficult.
Oh, bit of damage going in here on towards Mimer. We see the Subjugate there, feeding that health back over to Wickd. He was pretty low on mana, and with Mimer still having his ultimate and flash available, probably realised, you know what, I can't kill him anyway. Just try and force him to back away from that lane. Froggen again continues to harass into the mid lane on towards Moopz, but again, you have to feel that there's not going to be too much happening there in a 1v1 scenario to draw first blood.
There isn't, but Moopz is falling behind in CS because Moopz's wave has been pushing against Froggen. He's now 15 CS down. Froggen is playing the zoning game very well. When the minion line is behind him or at his turret, he can continually poke Moopz down, gets a very good placement there on the ward, and very safely uses the distortion secondary active just to get out nice and cleanly. So this is going to give Alliance some information to work with if and when Shook decides to go for a gank.
However, Impaler is waiting around at this point. There's that ward there just outside the Wraith, so they may just cross paths at this point with Impaler there, Shook there, and Froggen now moving around the corner. Will actually dive head on in towards that brush, and Impaler already stepped back at that point, seeing that Froggen had come around.
That's very good understanding here of these teams. They understand where their opponents are. Impaler knew that Shook and Froggen were making a play happen. Froggen moved to ward, and I believe Moopz would have called it, and Impaler reacted. So now they're sitting together. Shook is in a little bit of trouble. He's been stunned, but this is jungler and jungler for now.
Yep, we can see Ziggs starting to come around, but quick safeguard off towards Froggen. I mean that he's not in any kind of trouble. Those Wraiths down, but there is a dive in from Froggen on towards Moopz. It's, again, nothing but harassment.
Yeah, so that was a mimic of the distortion. Froggen actually used his ultimate just to poke down Moopz. It was a bit of an uninspiring amount of damage, I think would be fair to say, but now the information is there for Supa Hot Crew. Once again, this tiny window of opportunity. Impaler does have his Grand Skyfall, has positioned himself now in the bottom lane, and we'll see if they can jump on anybody. Supa Hot Crew is one of the teams that I think ganks their AD carry support lane even more than any other. I think SK Gaming would be the other team that does it excessively. And with the Pantheon, the power of that Grand Skyfall is very, very big.
However, this looks like it could be a 3-man gank on towards Mimer in the top side. We've got Froggen, who's just come up from the mid lane. He's now retreating, however. Shook will be doing a bit of the same. So Mimer not going to be under any pressure on that top side for now. So
eventually Alliance back away. The wave wasn't pushing quickly enough, and I think if Wickd had started pushing the wave very quickly, it would have given Mimer the signals, hey, something's up, something's fishy. So unfortunately for Alliance, the timing on that was a little off. In addition, they hadn't seen Impaler. The wards that Alliance have placed down are around the Wraith camp and basically the entrance to the river near the mid. It didn't give them vision of Impaler, didn't let them know where he was or what he was up to. So that unknown factor of where Pantheon is forced them to play a little safe and back away. This is one of the longest laning phases that we've had, and I think memory serve Alliance was involved in the game that lasted the longest before tower had fallen. It was around 23 minutes. Jumping on Impaler. Impaler gets a good stun on Froggen.
Some good damage in there on towards Impaler though. Again, losing half his health. Shook a little bit further behind from that one. Did start to move across, but those Wraiths already dealt with. They had full vision of Impaler whilst that was all going on, but nothing really more than that going to happen from it. Shook though keeping himself inside of that jungle, almost keeping the pressure up on towards Impaler. They know where Shook is because they put a ward down on that position just a few moments ago. So Shook still needs to be a little careful there.
So both of these teams are very happy to have an extended laning phase. Supa Hot Crew have got, Ziggs and Jinx that are going to scale very well. They've got strong initiation. This is the first play that Alliance made to force an objective. They pulled a dragon out. Nobody from Supa Hot Crew's reacted quickly enough. And that is an uncontested dragon. Considering that Alliance have only secured 1 dragon out of the 10 in the last 2 games these teams have played. That was a very, very smart call, realizing the opportunity was there and getting the 4-man of Alliance to grab it.
Really well done, and puts Alliance 1,400 gold into the lead of this one. And tell you what, Mimer's pretty low here in that top lane. Again, does have his ultimate. Wickd has no subjugate after using that a little early on, and Wickd doing a good job here to actually stay up in farm with Mimer. And we're getting to that point now where the bullying of Renekton becomes less and less effective in that top lane.
I actually think we hit that point even earlier because of those triple Doran's items that Wickd picked up. It's a very smart build that he's gone for the Bilgewater Cutlass because Mimer's gone tanky. So Wickd doesn't need to invest in his tanky stats because he can steal them from Mimer. Mimer did not go for the Tiamat Renekton, which is something that is used to excessively bully and completely dominate your lane. Wickd is even on CS in a lane matchup he should be losing. And yes, he's going to hit a item spike later, thanks to having 3 Doran's items. He's doing very, very well. He hasn't given up kills. He's still holding on to his tower. And I think this bodes well going into the mid game.
And if you look at the other lanes in terms of CS there, mid lane, only a 2 CS difference between Moopz and Froggen. Bottom lane, slight advantage for Tabzz in that one. The only real significant difference in terms of farm is actually coming from the jungle here. Shook at 70 to 44 CS. Neither of them, to be honest, have spent much time in lane. No,
neither of them have any sort of ganks, really. And I think part of the reason the CS is so much higher for Shook is the coordinated invades that Alliance have pulled off. Shook had some good level 3, level 4 invades in the Wolf camp and the White camp. Froggen has got some deep wards, and Shook is not afraid to go in and challenge. And he's doing well. He's farming up quite effectively. I think with Impaler having access to Grand Skyfall, the very first usage is going to be very telling. Mimer is going to slice once, should be able to dice away. We'll see if he's in trouble.
Yeah, I don't think so from this one. He may. Actually, he's forced to flash from that. Mimer maybe underestimating Wickd a little bit there. The subjugate came down. Wickd decided not to flash over the top. He once again, as before, is quite happy with that one. Oh, as Froggen came up there and actually decided that he couldn't get in range of Mimer before he'd already recalled out of there or walked even back towards his turret. Moopz in the meantime using that little bit of free time in mid lane to head back off and pick up his raids. He's now got that Athene's Unholy Grail finished.
Yes, a similar position to Froggen, also with the Athenes. Froggen's got an additional Doran's Ring on his side. Got a little bit of extra gold to play with thanks to having the Dragon as well. I think the first kill is going to come from somebody getting caught out of position. And right now, Alliance are trying to force somebody out of position by this invade. Shook and Froggen have been roaming the red buff area. They've been getting some pretty good vision down on Impaler. And you've seen earlier how much damage Froggen actually had on Impaler. So if Impaler starts off this red buff when it respawns, and Shook is nearby, that could be where Alliance find their first kill. They're slowly grinding the small lead.
Now we see Wickd actually did go back to finish off his Blade of the Ruined King. Just came back into lane via the use of that teleport. Knows that he's not going to have to be called down for Dragon anytime soon. You see a quick chomp down there and a couple of auto attacks onto Mimer. Makes him feel a lot more comfortable. Mimer with that pickaxe in there on top of his Sunfire Cape has struggled in terms of damage. We saw that flash forced out from him, but honestly, Shook's really not even tried to capitalize on the fact that that flash has been down.
I actually think that that top lane was left the way it was because Supa Hot Crew felt Renekton beats Trundle, and Wickd said, I'm going to go for a build that will allow me to deal with him. So Alliance haven't made any gank attempts. We still, once again, see Shook and Froggen trying to invade. They've got 3 sweeping lenses, actually in reply to the 3 sweeping lenses that Supa Hot Crew have. But again, everybody's just looking. They're trying to feel one another out. This is the first game of Super Week for these 2 teams, and nobody wants to start with a loss. Nobody wants to go into it when they're both sitting lower down the table. They're looking for that confidence boost and playing it slowly and passively to wait for an opportunity to present itself.
Oh, we're going to see a 2-man collapse here towards Mimer. He's already had a few troubles with Wickd. They do both have ultimates available, and as Froggen sees the ward come down, he will actually just head straight back into his mid lane, and actually has fallen slightly behind in CS now because of those couple of times where he's headed up towards that top lane, and also for the fact that Moopz is just getting more powerful now as well.
Yeah, Moopz is obviously going to be able to clear waves a little bit more efficiently than LeBlanc can. There is some splash damage from Froggen's Distortion, but it's not the ideal farming method. And we talked about how Shook hasn't really ganked Mimer with no flash. Froggen was roaming. Froggen has tried once earlier, but the wave wasn't pushing in his favor. And now knowing that that flash is still going to be down for another minute or 2 is why he was trying to make something happen. But once again, as it stands, Both of these teams are super happy to farm, super happy to get items before they force a fight. Maybe the next Dragon could be the point where somebody has to go in.
Feels like one of those games where you see nothing for quite a while, then all of a sudden it just goes absolutely crazy. That could be that moment coming in right now. We see Mimer, he's pushed on towards his turret, 2 men are coming in.
Dominus is available for Mimer, he needs to play this perfectly.
They're going to go for him anyway, and there is the kick straight back, and that will be first blood. Almost looked too easy for Alliance in that point. They got a couple of minions there. They could probably tank this one up long enough to take it down.
Yeah, and that was just a really well-timed move by Alliance. They get a kill, they get a tower. Unfortunately, their duo lane was had backed a moment or two before, so they also lost their bottom tower in return. Moopz and Impaler now setting their sights in this mid lane. If Supa Hot Crew can get it, overall, victory for Supa Hot Crew.
Really well played. They did the damage to Froggen there as he walked in from the side, and funnily enough, that sets them up perfectly timed for the Dragon spawning in. Both Migxa and Mr. RalleZ are both there. And here comes the jungler and the mid laner as well. This is a 4-man attempt. I don't see a steal being able to come down for Alliance.
No, there's nobody that could steal. Wickd didn't have his teleports available. Shook was nowhere near in range. So Alliance give up 1 kill, but they get 2 towers as well as the Dragon. They are going to lose their blue buff though as well. We'll see if they decide to go for any sort of invade. Froggen and Shook steal that one away, and they're going to dive Mimer again. They know Dominus isn't there. Flash isn't available from yet, and we'll see what their focus is going to be.
Froggen starts to move in from this one, and just a bit of damage before he has to back away. They didn't really have... oh, it was Wickd who actually started tanking up the turret there, so they didn't want to have too much damage coming in from that one. Backed away. That leaves the Supa Hot Crew ahead in turrets. Behind still, though, in gold, albeit by a pretty slim margin, just 200 or 300 now.
So what this does open up for the Supa Hot Crew with both the middle and bottom towers being down. Look at the vision that Supa Hot Crew has to play within the river and in and around that blue buff area. I think Supa Hot Crew with the Grand Skyfall and the map-wide ultimates of Ziggs and Jinx, they have the potential to either steal buffs or to challenge for them. We've not seen a Grand Skyfall yet from Impaler. It's 20 minutes in. This is very uncharacteristic. Impaler likes to use his ultimate. He likes to pick fights, and he just hasn't done it yet because maybe the team is playing a little safe and they haven't seen an opportunity they like.
Some other items coming in. Both mid laners now adding a need to see Large Rod. Froggen getting a bit extra from that thanks to his kill there with a blasting wand as well. He carries also in a bit of a similar scenario. Bloodthirster for both. See the workings of that static shiv for Tabzz on Caitlyn. The Phantom Dancer already done for Mr. RalleZ.
Mr. RalleZ, knowing it's a super extended laning phase, has foregone his boots. There hasn't been much pressure. Tabzz and Nyph have been pushing the lane, so Migxa and him have just been sitting under their tower. Nobody's roamed for them yet, even though Shook and Froggen looked for it once or twice, but I think it's a little bit of a greedy build, and it has worked out for Mr. RalleZ because no team has really forced anything happen. No team has been out of position or been roaming or forcing their team to roam. That will change very quickly though, as you can see now. 3 towers are down across the map, and Supa Hot Crew have to play a little more defensively. They can't give up any more footing or ground on their side.
And you know it's a very farm-focused game when if you look down the scoreboard and the 3 people that should have the farm by now have it all as well. All over 200, almost all over 200. Only Renekton a little bit behind here as we hit 21 minutes into the game.
Impaler's going to be in a little bit of trouble if he gets caught by Froggen. That Mimic Distortion, or the Mimic Distortion, the ultimate W, chunked off 30% of Impaler's hit points. He's got no MR built up yet. Wickd does have teleports available, so if somebody were to get caught out here by Shook or by Nyph, we could see the TP coming in. Wickd continues to split push. He's got that Blade of the Ruined King. This could be the first fight. Look for a solo flare from Migxa.
And there's the Lantern taken away. Bring Shook into safety off Nyph, who was a bit further up the lane. And you can see that, as you mentioned, Wickd continues to split push, has taken down a second turret here for Alliance, evens it up on the turret front. And more importantly, even that's an inner turret there that Wicked's been allowed freely to take out.
Yeah, I don't think Alliance will do anything different. Mimer is in trouble. He's going to get caught by Froggen.
Oh, Froggen coming over the side. Wickd, where's the pillar? Are they going to be able to lock him up? The slow is down. I don't see Mimer escaping this one. He puts his ultimate in, but Froggen picks up the kill in the end, and that will give him such a nice boost to work with. He's now sat at 2-0-0.
Yeah, very, very good play. Even with the chains actually catching a minion, there was enough damage there from Froggen and Wickd to secure the kill. So unfortunately, Mimer is now 0-2. Alliance definitely showing they want to keep Renekton down. Alliance also going to grab a touch. Shook's been caught.
Oh, they're going all in on towards Shook here. Migxa going to be focused by Froggen, but the damage is already there. Moopz will finally pick up the first kill of the game here for the Supa Hot Crew. And much needed for them as well, just to get Moopz rolling a little bit, if nothing else, just to keep up with where Froggen is.
Yeah, and hashtag worth for that one. Alliance give up 1 kill, but they get the inner turret. So now all outer turrets are down. Sorry, 2 outer turrets are down for Alliance against Supa Hot Crew. This is going to allow them to invade and get even safer, deeper vision, which they've been doing all game long. Froggen and Shook have been tag teaming who invades the Supa Hot Crew jungle, and it's starting to pay dividends. It's starting to work out for them. The only concern that Alliance has right now is they need to focus down Mr. RalleZ in a team fight. Mimer is pretty tanky. If they use all of their burst on him and Mr. RalleZ is left unchecked, he's got a lot of damage that he can work with and possibly secure kills with once these fights break out.
So you can see Wickd having to go at Mimer up on the top side, and he's got that Randuin's down with a pillar coming in. Mimer's actually got no flash here. Wickd has just received pings from the rest of his team that the entire Supa Hot Crew side were coming up the river, so he decided to back off it. But nonetheless, that's a scary thought for Mimer, who's now, well, he's having trouble, to put it bluntly. 0-2-0. He's fallen behind in the farm, and he's just not able to deal with Wickd in that top lane.
The other thing to remember is that was a first pick Renekton. Supa Hot Crew put all their chips on their first pick in Mimer's Renekton, and it hasn't done a thing yet. I mean, that's a fact. He went even in lane against a Trundle, which you should never do. He was fighting, and I think, truthfully, Mimer should have played a little more defensively when Wickd was winning those fights. You know, Wickd was not afraid to use Subjugate, was not afraid to go all in with his abilities, and it was forcing Mimer backwards the entire time. In addition to that, Impaler's been a non-factor. We have not seen a single Grand Skyfall. We are 24 minutes into the game, and he has not used that ultimate once. There's been no map presence, there's been no ganks, there's been no presence from him, unfortunately, and it's not really helping Supa Hot Crew, who are generally super aggressive in the early game.
That might change here, though, because we've got the Dragon spawning in. Alliance have a pink ward inside of the pit already, and pretty much every single player is here. Wicked's in the top lane, but he's got that teleport still to come back down into this one if he needs to. We've seen Mimer walk down from the top lane. It's going to allow Wickd the time to push things out. They may well just give up this Dragon. Wicked's going to push through. The Dragon will be taken as a freebie, just a positional advantage there for the Supa Hot Crew. Gets them in for their second out of 3 Dragons, but we'll see how far Wickd can go.
So Alliance decided not to do a thing. Froggen maybe looked for some poke, didn't manage to land. This is the first Grand Skyfall of the game, is defensive onto Wickd.
And, well, it comes in not really all that much damage. The Randuin's active just used there by Wickd, and he will just simply walk away from that one. Alliance here starting to group up. I say group up, it's Froggen again, as you expect out of him with LeBlanc, just hanging around in those bushes, looking to catch anyone out that he can blow up.
Now, I feel like Alliance will continue to play this style. They've got champions that have got pretty good wave clear. If you leave Caitlyn under the tower, she can do fairly well. And actually, it's only Caitlyn. So if Alliance are forced into a siege situation, Supa Hot Crew can do well. But I think Supa Hot Crew need to avoid giving up kills from people to the sides. You know, they can't allow Shook to jump in, kick anybody backwards like you've seen Amazing do in previous weeks. Supa Hot Crew cannot allow Moopz or Mr. RalleZ to get caught up by Froggen's burst. And I think if Alliance continue to just play the vision game, and look for safe picks that will convert to towers, thanks to Wicked split pushing, that's most likely the way they're going to play this game.
See Wicked waiting in the brush for Mimer. He's got a level advantage on him. We've just seen Lee Sin sneaking around the side. Mimer's just realized that he could be in a little bit of trouble from this one again. No flash available for him. He's going to slice and dice through. The Q has already landed. There's a pillar to slow him down as well, but actually they decide not to go through. They'd spotted, I think, Impaler coming up from that ward earlier on that they put down by the Wolves, and that just says, okay, we've hurt Mimer, we force him away again. We just go back to the start and to the plan.
In addition, the entire mid lane, seen every member of Supa Hot Crew leave the lane starting to run up to the river. So the rest of Alliance would have been calling back. If a Super Mega Death Rockets and a Mega Inferno Bomb had caught together with the Grand Skyfall, there is actually execution potential. There is some, room to get kills. And if you look at Shook and Wicked, they have not prioritized magic resistance at all. You've got a tiny bit of MR from those Merc trades for Shook, but nothing on Wicked just yet. And with Impaler getting closer to having that Void Staff completed, he's got a Death Cap and Athenians. Those bombs are going to hit very, very hard.
Well, 27 minutes in this one, so let's take a bit of a recap of the game as a whole. 2,000 gold lead is what Alliance are currently sat on, a 2-1 kill lead, and up by 1 turret at this stage of the game as well. Obviously those Dragons, strangely, funnily enough, considering that this game has been so relaxed in terms of gank and real pressure around the map as a whole, the Dragons have been strangely free to take.
They've been gifted to either team, I think is a good way to talk about it. And part of the reason for that, Alliance got the first one, Supa Hot Crew couldn't challenge. Supa Hot Crew got the next one, and Alliance are a little bit of afraid of the 5v5. They don't want to get grouped. They don't want to get caught by Leona. They don't want Pantheon Grand Skyfall. They don't want the splash. They've caught Migxa. They're going in.
Froggen coming in from the side. The hook landing on towards Migxa. And Mixa's going to go down before he can do much. They do get a kill back on towards Thresh. But RalleZ is dead. This is bad news for the Supa Hot Crew. And now they're going to chase down Moopz. Can they? Oh, he goes through Mimer. Not sure how he didn't block that one. But now he's going to be chased down by the rest of the team. That's 4 men dead for the Supa Hot Crew. And honestly, Alliance lost 1 man. Froggen took a little bit of a beating, but they're going to just back off straight to Baron.
Supa Hot Crew were sitting in the mid lane. 4 members there. Mimer was nowhere near. He was in the top lane and needed to come down. Wickd was able to teleport in. Take a look at the minimap. Wickd is teleporting in, and Alliance just found a pick. They jump onto Migxa. Mixa's forced to use a sub-optimal solar flare, and thanks to Wicked's great Pillar of Ice, he locks Mr. RalleZ against a tree line with Shook behind him and Trundle in front of him. Froggen comes in to get the last hit and grab the kill. Simply put, Supa Hot Crew should not have been that overextended without their full force, without all 5 members, and they probably just forgot about the teleport. Forgot that it was there, forgot it was available. Alliance jump in, they grab themselves the ace, almost 4 kills rather, and a Baron.
Yeah, once that replay was going down, Alliance taking themselves a nice Baron, which Nyph had respawned for as well, so all 5 members of the Alliance team getting that. What I'm really interested in is how they actually go for this one now, because he said just a few moments ago they're not really in for that 5-on-5, but it was again the perfect kind of scenario for a team like this. Complete confusion and chaos by the Supa Hot Crew. We saw that the Solar Flare went to the back, the bomb from Ziggs went somewhere off in the middle, only really to hit Froggen. Mr. RalleZ got kicked back against the trees and they knocked in and locked up with the pillar. They were in chaos, and that's what Alliance won.
So 2 minutes ago, Alliance were not looking for a 5v5. The composition of Supa Hot Crew would just do slightly better in that scenario unless Alliance could find a pick. And what Alliance were able to do is realize that it was going to be a 4v4 or 5-on-4, and they were able to get so much burst damage down into Migxa early, and they were split up. Shook came from behind, Wickd came from the middle lane, you had Tabzz sitting further up the mid. So the group, the AoE, was never a real threat from Supa Hot Crew. Now that Alliance have got a 6k gold lead and the Baron and the statistics that Baron gives you in all the regen, now all of a sudden Alliance can actually start to pick fights. They've got that mismatch evened out thanks to having a superior position. We see Mixa's the one starting it, can't even catch Shook.
Not close. Well, it was pretty close to getting into a Shook, but that good old Lantern bringing him back. Right now, Mimer is trying to hold off the assault on this bottom lane, and actually 2 of them are down there, so this could be really interesting. They can have a 3-man push towards the middle. We've got Wickd pushing that top lane, so that 1-3-1 split here working out great for Alliance.
Mr. RalleZ is walking back to base. He went to finish his last Whisper. He wasn't in range to defend. Nobody's touched Wickd up until this exact moment. Now Froggen is left unchecked on the bottom lane. Alliance are just running circles around Supa Hot Crew, and Supa Hot Crew have got absolutely no defense. Mega Inferno Bomb still available. Grand Skyfall still available. Alliance have just secured themselves 2 turrets at 0 cost. There was 0 threat there. There was nothing that Alliance had to do to get those other than just walk up to them.
I think one thing as well that's really hard for the Supa Hot Crew to say is, okay, we're going to pile into this person or to this area, but if you look at the champions that Alliance have got, they've got so much mobility there. Lee Sin able to safeguard out, Froggen can dive out, a net will get Tabzz to safety. If not, a Lantern from Nyph just outside will bring them to safety. It's hard for them to really coordinate everything there, and that's frankly what we've seen, a lack of coordination so far from the Supa Hot Crew. No real opportunities being presented to them by Alliance, who are playing a very fluid game, and a game where they're just simply all across the map waiting, setting up those traps, that 1-3-1 split that we just saw a moment ago working out perfectly for them. I'm not sure what the Supa Hot Crew are going to be able to do to stop this by now.
There's very little that the Supa Hot Crew can do. They're 10k gold down now, 9k rather. Alliance are playing their composition perfectly. They've left Wickd completely alone in that top lane. He's been pushing the entire time, just trying to pull members of Supa Hot Crew towards him. And the moment somebody does, the rest of Alliance respond. They get invade, they get deep wards, they go for towers. Mr. RalleZ is hands off. I mean, even he's trying to figure out, what do we do? They don't want to fight a team with Baron. If you look at the Alliance trinkets, you've got the Scrying Orb there on Wickd, so he's even going to be able to check out the jungle camps where he doesn't have vision to prevent being ganked. You've got 4 sweeping lenses for Alliance. They're in complete control of this game, and barring a monumental mistake, they've basically got the ability to find a pick and then go for a tower. That's what Alliance needs to do. This is going to be the hardest part though, because Supa Hot Crew could just sit in their base, and it's much more difficult to find a pick when you're sitting behind a turret and behind the walls.
Supa Hot Crew here set up Ziggs down the bottom lane, one of the strongest wave clearers that we have really in-game for this, exactly for this kind of scenario is he nicely built, but for anything more than that at this point, for actually pushing out of the base and securing any kills, they're going to need a lot more coordination. I think a lot's going to rely on to Migxa landing everything to get something started, and even then I'm not sure that they've got the power compared to Alliance here, 10,000 gold behind.
In order for Supa Hot Crew to even stand a chance or to repel this 1-3-1 is to catch Alliance off guard. Now you need to see Migxa landing a good Solar Flare or a Flash Zenith Blade or something similar onto Tabzz or Froggen. Get the kill and then force the rest of Alliance away. That's how Supa Hot Crew can, wrest control back of the game. As it stands, you see some great Yordle snap traps there being laid down by Tabzz. It's a big deterrent in trying to deal with it. You step on it, you take a bunch of poke, a bunch of damage, and all of a sudden you can't fight. And this is just allowing Tabzz to sit back, land a couple auto attacks every time the minion gets in there, and they're happy to do that.
Continues to push out that bottom lane. Wickd doing the same up on the top side. And we see their Tabzz slowed down. Supa Hot Crew standing on the traps where they can to keep them away. It's Froggen not quite going to dive into Moopz as I thought he was going to there. Moopz had even got himself that satchel charge ready and waiting to dive away. But this one feeling like a matter of time before they go. And actually Migxa edging forward there. You saw that force Alliance to back away from things, but for how long? They're probably just going to wait for the next wave and push straight back in.
It was too linear. It was so obvious. We were looking at going, well, okay, Migxa wants to go in. And all of that mobility from Alliance just came into play. You see Nyph is hanging a little bit further back from the rest of the champions. Lantern is available. 90 caliber net immediately from Tabzz. Alliance now, the Baron buff is worn off, but they have forced Supa Hot Crew to lose control in its entirety. They cannot push out their base. They've got no vision to work with, no items at all. And because the 1-3-1 split is working for Alliance, Froggen has grabbed himself a Lichbane. I mean, Lichbane is not a core item on LeBlanc. Yes, it'll add to your burst, but what it does allow Froggen is every now and again when he gets in range of a tower, get a Lichbane auto attack down, chunk that tower for a whole bunch of HP, and Alliance is just going to chip away. Just keep chipping away until something breaks.
Might break a little bit sooner than expected here because we have Baron coming up in 15 seconds time. The Supa Hot Crew have already started to mobilize their forces and push out towards the river, getting a few wards down as they go and sweeping out to see what vision Alliance have got, which frankly is not a lot right now because they've not really been around that Baron area for a while. They've been pushing straight out. They're going to do it again. Look at Trundle, look at LeBlanc off on the outer lanes, pushing straight down, forcing those minions in and forcing the Supa Hot Crew to say, okay, we have to back off from this one. Wickd himself goes down to the bottom lane. Makes sense because he's the one with teleport furthest away from Baron to come back.
Exactly. Pull Supa Hot Crew towards you. Now, not only does Wickd have all of this defensive statistics to play with, he's got himself Boots of Swiftness. He's also gone for the Captain upgrade. So that's 517 movement speed when he's sitting on his frozen domain. He is going to motor across the map. Even cheekily stands there and takes the bomb to say, come on, pop my Banshees, what are you going to do about it? I think because Wickd has gotten so far ahead now with this front line, if Alliance decided to group up behind Trundle and force a fight, they've got the damage, they've got the tankiness, they've got the ability to pick people off to find wins. Impaler was stood in a ward. He's going to get counter-ganked.
Oh, going into that one. Actually, they did have that. Oh, no, that was a brand new ward that just went in there. Sorry, Migxa must have placed that one right on top of Alliance head. And that alarming moment where you put the ward down and there are 3 guys waiting in the brush. Luckily for the Supa Hot Crew, they couldn't get too involved with it. Froggen is waiting here by the blue wolf. Mimer's probably not the target he wants, but he'll have a bit of free damage onto him if he can. And actually, it's more than a bit of damage. Half of his health going down. They've managed to land in on towards Junko. Can they actually finish him off from this one? Tabzz is off to the side. He's not doing any damage in the fight up until now, but they don't even look like they need him. Wickd is in there as well. Tabzz is going to pick up that kill on towards Impaler. A good double kill kill does come back around though for Moopz. And will the Supa Hot Crew be able to do anything about this one? I don't think that Alliance are strong enough to risk Baron, and Supa Hot Crew are pushing up mid.
So a 2 for 2, and Moopz basically won that, or made the fight go even. His Mega Inferno Bomb melted the HP bars of Supa Hot Crew, of Alliance, and thanks to Alliance staying grouped up, Supa Hot Crew were able to back away. Mr. RalleZ used the longer range of that rocket launcher on his Q switcheroo and kept at bay. Now they're trying to get some auto attacks down, but this is very risky. Wickd's gonna get Mr. RalleZ.
Oh, look at that. The hook lands in as well from Nyph. RalleZ is not escaping that one. Tabzz going very aggressive at the start of things there. Lost a lot of HP, but that's what's setting up because RalleZ fully had a chance. Flash hook in towards Moopz. Here comes the rest of the team. Tabzz will finish off with a 90 caliber net, and that is another 2 kills nicely picked up for Alliance.
This is a great performance from Nyph. This is the first time this split that we've seen Nyph consistently landing important hooks. Up until this point, his flays have been a little off, his death sentences haven't secured them kills, and now it is working for him. Alliance are now on the inhibitor turret. Impaler's going to do the best he can, but he may just give up his life.
Well, they're going to go on to this one. Solar Flare came down. Tabzz has taken a lot of damage. Will they be able to finish him off? Mimer's in. The Ignite is down. His life stealing back, but the kill does land from Migxa. That gets down one important person. They're trying to have a go at Wickd, but he is so ridiculously tanky at this point. There's another flame. Shock is going to finish off Impaler. Migxa won't escape Froggen's wrath, and that's 3 men now down. Mr. RalleZ has respawned into it. They're going to take the Inhib back off to Baron here.
Yeah, Alliance in just such a great position. Continue to chase down Wickd. As soon as he had healed up, he used that teleport, rejoined in that mid lane, and just working so well. I think Supa Hot Crew, that fight came too late. They had a pretty good fight against Alliance. We talked about how Supa Hot Crew's 5v5 was actually very powerful. They went even with the team that had a 10k gold lead, thanks to landing all of that key splash damage onto Alliance. Unfortunately for Supa Hot Crew, it's a little too little, a little too late. Alliance are on the Baron. They should be able to get this one uncontested. They've backed away, thanks to the burst damage coming down from that Super Mega Death Rocket. In addition, I don't think they were 100% confident people were coming in. Yeah, Mega Inferno Bomb thrown just for good measure as well.
Just to make sure that wasn't gone, and rightly so, Alliance have decided to recall and pick up a couple more things. For example, a Warmox is come down now on Trundle. We've seen Wriggle's Lantern actually finished off, funnily enough, by Shook, which we say funnily enough, but that adds to his Baron potential as well.
It does. It also gives you a lot more, it replaces his vision. He loses the ward for not having the yellow trinket, is going to have that additional ward in addition to his Sightstone ward, so there's so many wards that Shook can play with and dart around with and use in team fights, but very importantly, it allows Alliance to maintain that 1-3-1. He's got multiple wards to put down, so as long as Alliance have, say, Baron, for example, for regen, he can just sit in lane, spam out those wards in the jungle, and maintain vision control. Works in his favor. As it stands right now, Supa Hot Crew still need to find and engage. They still need to find a time where they can get another 5-man Mega Inferno Bomb or, you know, pick somebody off from Alliance, but Alliance just aren't giving them the opportunity.
Start thinking about Ace and Hall going to go on to Moopz. Half health. Almost gone just from that one. Tabzz with the GA becomes less of a valuable target now for the Supa Hot Crew as well, because he's coming back into it. Tabzz, we have said a few times throughout the season, also in this one so far, has been in a couple of dangerous positions. We'll see if that comes in again. There's a hook on towards Migxa. He's going to die before the rest of the team can do anything about it. And with that man down, all their initiation, or not all of it, but, well, it is really all of it. That is gone now. How are they going to stop this from happening? It's going to be all or nothing.
Yeah, Alliance completely melted him. They got the kill. They're going to secure themselves Baron. Supa Hot Crew are going to go for this last-ditch effort. They've started on the inner turret. They're going to trade inner turret for Baron. The problem is, I don't think they can continue. The steal? Nope. No.
Close though, very close. I had to read twice there as to who had actually taken that one. Impaler though, he's stuck inside of that Baron pit. He's got Froggen to contend with. They're going to take down the Inhib turret here as well from this one. We have to get away and look at the troll beasting around the corner. His Banshee stops one from the Flame Choppers, doesn't stop him getting away. Now Mimer going to be hit by the Q. He was slowed by the randoms. Froggen is there as well, and Mimer trapped up inside this blue buff pit. Might be able to take a blue buff with him, not even that. Froggen gets that and the kill. Meanwhile, Tabzz did take down Ziggs. That was actually at the back. I don't know where Moopz was even going from that one. He'd headed off behind the inner turret on the bottom lane. That's 3 men down. A minute spawn timer on Moopz and Mimer. 20 seconds on Impaler. Alliance might be able to take a few more things out of the base of the Supa Hot Crew.
They may even try push to finish the game. This is a quick replay of Moopz getting caught out. You can see that's the ace in the hole going down. I think minions are going to work in his favor. Tabzz will get the last auto attack. But we do see the rest of Alliance in the base. They've got a lot of damage to play with. They're just starting on the bottom. Fairly easy. Moopz just trying to get away, not working out. And this is another turret for Alliance.
Another inhibitor by the looks of things. Don't see what Supa Hot Crew can do to stop that one. That means that these super minions are going to start streaming in. For me, Alliance are strong enough right now to head straight up onto that top lane and have a go on the 3rd and final inning turret, or maybe even head towards the Nexus turrets. They are going to be going for that one. Froggen dives in towards the back to do the damage. The first Nexus turret going to go low. Tabzz gets hit by the solar flare, but he's got a GA. He doesn't care. He gets a kill. Second man goes down. Now it's all down to Impaler, who will be burst to pieces as well. He took Froggen with him, but that's not enough. Moopz and Mimer now coming back into the game. Well, the Nexus turrets are already gone. The Nexus itself is down to less than half HP, and Alliance going to pick up their first victory of Super Week over the Supa Hot Crew.